Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like him. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 6 of the Hunting Collective. I'm Ben O'Brien. I'm joined today by none other than Remi Warren. I'm sure you know Remi from his appearances on Solo Hunter. He's been featured on Meat Eater. He once had a show by the name of Apex Predator, and he is most generally a badass. This podcast I believe you'll enjoy mostly just because we were sitting on a porch drinking beer late in the night and talking about hunting, talking about values, and generally just shooting the shit as two people who enjoy spending time together. Had a great meal, had a few after dinner beers, and recorded a conversation that we both enjoyed having. So I won't say much more about Remi or about the podcast or about the conversation other than to say I hope you enjoy. We sure did. Episode number 6. Okay, Remi, I'm putting my lime in my Corona.
My lime is also in my Corona. Now, let me tell everybody out there a little story. Me and Ben are sipping Coronas in his backyard at this time. But the Corona part flashes me back to, I don't know, a few weeks ago when we did this very same podcast. Mm-hmm. Yet, Ben decided to use a memory card that was probably less storage space than a Nokia Razr.
Yeah, it came out of my Game Boy.
Remember when you were playing Snake on your phone and you thought that .05 cell phone pic was epic? He decided to take the memory card out of that and record a very high quality podcast on it. So we talked for an hour and a half. And nothing came of it. And so, except we enjoyed Coronas.
Just crestfallen. We were just... No, actually, we got most of it recorded, and then I went to put it on my computer, and I deleted it.
It was one of the best podcasts ever. I will say it was a very avant-garde podcast. It's like one of those podcasts where it was an expression, it was an art form. Mm-hmm. We talked about, we did the podcast without recording it, and then we go and tell people about the podcast. And those people tell those people, and it spreads like wildfire through the community of hunting.
People will say, do you remember the time that you heard about the time that Remi
you heard about the podcast? No, did you hear that podcast? No, I didn't hear that podcast either, but here's what I heard about that podcast.
That's exactly right. It was like a Jackson Pollock painting.
For the rest of the night, to annoy Ben and everyone else, I'm going to keep referring to what I said in the other podcast.
It'll be, we'll remember this years from now when we're old and gray. We'll remember that podcast as just time lost in an age where everything was recorded. There was a moment where we had a discussion we thought was serious. It turned out to be nothing.
Yet that duck face picture you took still remains.
Yes. All those grip and grins I've been posting for the last 10 years on the internet still remain. Well, it remains to be seen if this one will ever make it anywhere.
We don't know.
Which is even weirder.
Talking to the abyss, and actually, as a fellow tech-savvy type of human, I'm checking myself.
You're at about 18, right?
Yeah, we're getting a little record action. So,
let's see.
I don't remember what we talked about, and I don't really care.
It doesn't matter.
Here's the thing.
You're on number one.
Here's the thing.
Tell me.
If someone else was like, let's do a podcast, and I did a podcast, and it got deleted, and they're like, let's redo the podcast, I would say, good luck. You just tell the story. But because Ben O'Brien is a very dear friend to me,
yes,
and I appreciate what he does, I was like, of course, Ben.
I don't think you were like, of course. I was like,
you're like, look, I'll buy you dinner. And I was like, okay.
I took you to a
like,
nice
hey, I forgot my wallet. And I was like,
I took you to a fancy dinner. And I was like, would you like to return to my house? I have some Coronas, and we could sit on the back porch. Oh, there's some headphones back here.
Oh, hey, let's have a conversation.
Listen, it was very sad. Like that night, it was a very somber night. My wife and I didn't even look at each other. Like I knew what I had done. I knew what we can never get back. It was like a death in the podcast family that lost. Maybe one day I'll find it on some old Tecmo Bowl card that that I never knew I had.
That's why I record all my podcasts on VHS.
Just in case.
It's so hard to erase.
Just in case one day we have to erase it. I'm going to look at you. Turn you down a little bit. We're letting everybody behind the curtain here. Behind the podcast curtain. So I think we're going to talk about hunting. That's probably one of the things that we'll touch on here in this podcast. But I think the first thing I want to talk about is your upcoming nuptials. If you're comfortable with going over what that looks like.
For Ben O'Brien, I'll do anything.
God,
I will really divulge into my life.
Oh, yeah.
I think people. I like to be a little secretive. I don't like people knowing my business.
I don't think anybody really knows about your wife, or your fiance.
My fiance.
You got to close the deal. But
yeah,
I don't think there's a lot of people that you're
I
definitely
sealed
not.
the deal yet. Here's the thing. People are always saying to me, "Oh, someone finally tied you down, wrangled you in." What makes them think that I'm the one that's getting tied down? No, not in that way. But,
yeah,
I might not be the catch in this relationship.
I mean, I would say it's likely from what you've described your lovely fiance.
She's the catch.
She is the catch. You told me she gets up at 4 a.m.
She does. I think it's just to outdo me.
That's a bad precedent.
She accomplishes more by 7 a.m. than most people will in a week. And that's what I love.
Are you intimidated by that?
A little bit, not going to lie.
Yeah, I feel it.
And the fact that she's like, yeah, well, I was like, what do you do from 5 to 7 a.m.? When the answer is punching kickboxing bags to stay in shape, I get scared.
You think she's just doing that to intimidate you? She's just doing that just to keep you in line. Like, listen, Remi.
I will say this, as far as hunting goes, and this is actually an interesting topic that many people might shy away from. I'm just gonna go all for it.
That's kind of what we're after.
That's what we're after.
Yeah, interesting topics.
Think about this. I grew up, and a lot of times you either do one of two things. You mimic the family that you grew up in, or you do the exact opposite. I was very fortunate enough that I grew up in a great family. Okay? That's probably rarer in today's society than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Parents stayed together. You know, brothers were your friends.
Right.
Like it was
exactly.
all seemed good.
I grew up in a very tight-knit family. My dad liked to hunt. My mom, not a hunter. She actually grew up in a family of what I would probably consider, for most people out there, hippie vegans. Because they were vegans and fairly hippie-esque. However, I've kind of converted most of them into eating wild game meat, which they
Oh.
love now. But my mom enjoys going out hunting with us. The lady is one of the best spotters I have ever met. I probably got my spotting abilities from my mother.
That's awesome.
Sorry, Dad. I mean, he knows it's true. In my outfitting business, she'll be home. She does a lot of the cooking for us, and she could be on Top Chef. Like,
Gosh.
she is a phenomenal cook. She does an amazing job. It's not like home cooking. It's like Bobby
Fancy,
Flay shit. Yeah.
Bobby Flay shit.
But one day she'll look up on the hill. Oh, there's a deer, and she doesn't get excited like somebody that hunts does. She's seen enough deer on the wall and whatever that she'll look at a deer. She's a better judge of mule deer than probably 99% of the self-proclaimed trophy mule deer hunters out there. She does not bullshit. And for some reason, she has an eye for rack bracketing deer. She could look at a deer and be like, knows whether it's the quality we're looking for or not.
Yeah.
One week, we had a client with a special mule deer tag. This is a long story. I'm getting around and coming back.
Go.
So we had a client with a mule deer tag, special mule deer tag. He actually, I think, if I remember correctly, he might have even won the super tag for the state of Montana, which means he can hunt anywhere in the state. And I happened to guide in one of the better units, so he decided to come hunt with us. Maybe it was just he drew it. I can't remember. Well, so the guy is hunting his ass off all week. My mom's cooking up the last meal. The guy has not killed a mule deer. She calls me and is like, "Hey, Remi, there is a big buck behind the lodge. You should probably get your hunter over here." And I'm like, okay. Well, the hunter was with another guide that day. I was elk hunting. We'd killed our elk, taken it into the butcher, and I was just coming back. So I'm like, oh, shit. Well, these guys don't even have phones with them because, like, this never happens. They're in a good spot. So I drive 100 miles an hour to this. I go to the lodge first because I'm thinking, my mom, does she really know what a big... She points up there. I look through the binoculars and I go, oh, shit. Yeah, that's a big buck. Yep, you know what a big buck is.
Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom. Big non-typical buck, points going everywhere. And then I drive down, I drive to where their truck is parked because I saw it earlier in the day. I literally am sprinting up, trying to find these guys, find them, get them. They jump in the truck. We drive back 100 miles an hour. And the last night of the hunt, he shoots this deer that my mom had spotted.
Oh.
And I was like, awesome. And then a couple years later, my mom spots a buck, and she looks at deer all day. She's like, oh, yeah, deer. Spots another buck, tells my buddy about it, and he ends up shooting the buck, and it was a 210-inch buck. It's just, she has a knack for finding big deer. Here's where the story relates to her and what I was going into. She tells us about this deer behind the lodge. We shoot the deer. She then proceeds to cry and cry and cry. They killed my buck. They killed the deer. My mother is not a hunter, but she enjoys going out. She enjoys the process of hunting. Mm-hmm. When she generally spots the things that get shot. On my Nevada elk hunt, which took me 10 years to draw, she's sitting right next to a professional hunter, and she happened to spot the elk that I ended up shooting.
I like your mom.
Every time she cries for that animal, then she wipes her tears away, and she will put on probably what's close to her body weight in meat on her back and pack it out.
Oh, my God.
But she loves the process of hunting, but she's told me she could never kill something herself.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, their families, my family dynamic was my dad hunted, my mom did not hunt, but she enjoyed going out. I never had a desire to look for a spouse or partner that hunted.
Yeah.
It was not in my radar. It wasn't something that I wanted. It was actually something that I seeked to find. Somebody that didn't hunt. Not some weird Freudian whatever thing.
You're like, I'm just going to be honest with myself.
No. But to be honest, I thought, yeah, I've got a buddy whose wife hunts. And what does he do? He guides his wife hunting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's typical every time. And not that, and if you're my buddy and you're listening to this and you think it's you, it's probably not you. It could be my other buddy.
Remy's got a lot of buddies, so everybody
buddies.
just calm down.
But
it's not you.
But I guide all the time. That's my job.
Yeah.
So when I go out, do I want to be taking somebody else hunting? No, I like to hunt alone. I like to do my own thing. That's my escape. That's how I reset, is to be out alone.
Yeah.
Well, my current fiance, my only fiance.
Yeah. Let's walk that back. My fiance. Lovely.
What I meant by current, I meant she's my fiance now, but she will be my wife.
Got it. We got saved it.
Well, actually, no. I was going to say my current fiance is a hunter, but she was not a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm digging myself a hole. Okay,
no.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
When I met her, she had said to me she would enjoy going out, but she did not hunt.
That's right.
She never could see herself killing an animal. And I thought, that's fine. And I was like, do you like wild game meat? Yes.
Ooh.
Score. Because that right there is a deal breaker for me.
Well, but you met my wife, right? My wife, I took her squirrel hunting one time in the Ozarks. I shot 2 squirrels. It was hot that day. I shot 2 squirrels. She said, "This sucks. Let's go back." And that's the only time we went out hunting together. But she can cook the hell out of that squirrel. She can cook the hell out of an elk. She happily does it. But I had to get her to that point. Like when I first met her, she had never tried that stuff. But now, if I go out and I'm like, call her on day 3, I'm like, I'm having a tough elk hunt. She's like, "Are you seeing elk?" I'm like, yeah. She's like, "Just shoot one. We need to meet." Like that's
come home.
We need that. And so I have that separation of church and state where she is very much in support of those efforts, almost to her own benefit. Like she understands. And then when I bring the meat home and I start processing it, she's got a lot of like, "Oh, I'll take some steaks out of that. Let's go butterfly with those. We'll go 3-inch with those. Those we'll just make some hamburger." And she has these exactly what she wants. Well, what if we try making lunch meat? Do we need to get a slicer? And I was thinking, I don't think I would want it any other way. Not that if she tomorrow turned up like your fiance did and said like, let's give it a shot. I'd love to see what it's like. Not that I wouldn't jump for joy to spend that time with her, but at the same time, I appreciate what we have right now. I don't want to change it.
Yeah, but you probably feel the same way I do. Is whether she hunts or not, if she turned her nose up to wild game, it'd be a very hard household to live in.
Oh, I mean,
that to me is more different than having difference of political opinion.
Well, I had the first experience where Hannah, my wife, goes to a lot of mom groups and stuff because she's a stay-at-home mom, and she met this husband and wife team, and they both are very nice people. We went to their house for a little dinner party, and they asked if I would bring some elk meat. So they'd never had it before. So I brought some elk. I brought a nice chunk of backstrap, which to me is like this, if I didn't like them, I would have brought them some sausage.
Right.
I thought, well, maybe we could be friends with these people. I'll bring them some backstrap. Well, we go over there, and I cooked it up on the grill, which I didn't have any tools of my own. I just figured we'll just cook it in their environment. It's not going to be bad. It's elk. Cooked it up pretty on the grill, on a Weber grill. Cooked it up. It was good. It sliced it up, and the husband ate it up, was loving life, and the wife slices a piece of it off and eats it. And I'm like kind of watching her, like weird reactions, and trying to hide her like what seemed like disgust. And my wife said, like, "How'd you like it?" She said, "It tastes a little like liver." And I just thought, That's the worst reaction. I've never heard that reaction to a medium rare elk backstrap in my entire life, and I could see the guy, like the embarrassment on the guy's face was clear to me, and I just thought, man, if that was my wife, I don't know what I would do. I'm not sure what I would do.
That I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where was it? Oh yeah, I was just talking about how my fiance, before she actually went hunting, she would go with me in New Zealand, and we would hike up the mountains, and I would shoot the animals. But every step of the way, she was walking in my footsteps. I've hunted with a lot of people in a lot of places. She was the only person I've ever met that could keep up with me.
Yeah.
Therefore, she is a badass. Whether she will admit, she's very humble. She is a school teacher. She likes to keep to her own. She has zero social media. She will not go on social media. She is very, very reserved. I have Google Home in my house. She doesn't like the fact that Google's listening.
It's listening to us.
Right.
She
may work for the CIA. I'm not sure.
Let me ask you this question. Did she know anything when you guys got together and started getting serious? Did she know about your, like who you were in the hunting industry or
no.
You're standing there? Or did she just think you were some hunting fellow that played at a profession?
Yeah, she's like, huh, that's interesting. What do you do?
I don't care.
What do you do?
I don't
okay,
care.
Cool. No, but she actually came to Montana and did some cooking and kind of like learned what I did just to get a better sense of everything that I do, which was cool, and go to New Zealand and all that. But, I mean, she's a school teacher, which is awesome, just very caring. But she can keep up like nobody else I've ever met. I was like, that's pretty awesome. Okay, doesn't matter if you don't. However, she recently shot her first deer, which she was extremely excited, and watching her go through the emotion of it. I mean, she shot the deer, and she made a perfect shot. I'm talking like she's a very good shot. Her dad's a good shot too, so her dad taught her to shoot, but she never wanted to hunt. But she's a very good shot. So she shoots, makes a great shot. Okay, wow. Okay, now I'm going to lock the guns in the gun safe and never give you the combination. No, just kidding. Where was he going with that? I think that was all because of the punching bag thing and then fear of the lady. And then...
Well, just what it feels like to have...
Yeah.
Somebody who wasn't a hunter, you felt comfortable with that idea. You grew up with that. Right. Now you have somebody that's passionate.
But now she understands what hunting is, and she's gone through the steps that I went through when I first started hunting. Now, she went through maybe a little more range of emotion, but she understands what it means to kill what you eat. She understands what it means when I put... The biggest thing that I saw was originally she thought, oh, you can do whatever you want in the other parts of the house, antlers, whatever, not too many, but no antlers in the bedroom. I was like, I agreed to that. I'm a sensible man. There's some things you can...
Sanctuary. So, man, there's a lot of those ladies have a sanctuary.
Right. And I agreed to that. People out there thinking, Remi's a hardcore motherfucker. He would never agree to that. I agreed to that. But when she shot her first deer, and it happened to be a buck, we weren't actually trying for a buck, or we were just whatever deer we could. It was axis deer, and most of them had lost their antlers. But it's cool that she got a buck. I actually really wanted her to get a buck. She didn't care. She just wants some meat. But when she shot her first buck, the range of emotion, and then she was like, wow, these antlers are mine now. I want to put them up on the wall. I have the perfect place for them.
Right above the bed.
In our bedroom. And I was like, now you get it. Now you get the value that I put on it. It wasn't a giant buck.
Yeah.
It was no quote unquote, air quote, trophy. But she went through a range of emotions. She cried. she had taken the life of something that was beautiful.
Mm.
What was beautiful then became meat that we ate and nourished our bodies and was good and healthy for us. And then those antlers became a symbol of the experience, in the way she describes it, as one of the most vivid experiences of her life.
Yeah.
Like a very clear, defining moment, from someone that didn't hunt and thought could never hunt to now wanting to put those antlers up on the wall. And to me, that validates the process of hunting, the process of antlers. I have mounts in my house, and what those mean to me. It doesn't mean some trophy, some chest-pounding trophy. To me, it's a memory that when the meat in the freezer is long gone, I will forever remember the animal that sacrificed its life.
And it's funny to me that we as hunters have maybe not me and you, but maybe like our upbringing brought this on a little bit. It was funny how we as hunters have so poorly represented the idea that you're talking about. I can't remember, I was watching the other day, like the trophy documentary on CNN. I watched that, and then I was watching some NRA TV, just as I wanted to kind of catch what was stirring up controversy. And then there was, in both cases, there was people who had trophy rooms that were literally one giant room with upwards of 175 heads, full body mounts around that room. And to me, that denotes a collection rather than a collection of experiences like you're talking about, or a collection of really important moments in your life and very vivid memories and things that are, really just experiential for you. You have a giant vaulted ceiling with 75 heads on it. What's that look like? It looks like you're collecting those animals, not that somehow you have 175 experiences you want to commemorate. It looks like you have 175 chess pieces on a board or something of that nature. Probably something smarter than that, but that's what it seems to me. And I wondered, historically, we've done a poor job of representing what a mount should be, and probably moreover, what the fuck it could be. What could it be to you? It could be anything you want it to be.
Right. I mean, there's people that do not hunt and have a cabin in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, with antlers and mounts all over it.
Mm-hmm.
They mean nothing. They're decorations.
Yep.
I don't see any set of antlers in my house as decoration.
Yeah.
When you look at the whitetail on your wall in your living room, is that decoration to you?
No, absolutely not.
It might be a decoration to your wife or someone that walks into your house. But to you, it's not a decoration.
Right. And she understands, even though she put that all together like a decorative piece.
It looks nice.
She understands what I
when you see it, you see a memory.
And she understands that. She's like, me, I want it to look nice. I understand for you, this is what it's going to be. And we talked about that when we moved into this current place. Like, once we had a kid, the decorating went out the window, destroyed everything. But I said I would like each room to have some totems in them. Like, when I walk into the room, I can think, like, immediately I look. And our Lanai trip last year, my guest bedroom in there, I've got the axis deer I killed. I shot that thing at 80 yards, not ashamed to say. I was at some point ashamed to say that. Now I'm not, after I thought it through. And then I have a mouflon in there that I shot with a rifle, basically off a truck, like at the same level, both from the same hunt.
However, we got a picture of me with the stick in the background.
A Russian
One of my favorite stick in the background. I'll talk about.
We got to tell. I
later.
think part of this podcast, I hope we could just tell some fucking hunting stories and get to that. But to me, that room, even moreover to representing our hunt together, it represents that place, like how it feels and what it means to me, and like how it changed my perspective on the world, like what the islands of Hawaii are to me. They're a simpler place. They're more pristine. They're more cultural. They're more reverent. So when I look at those heads, I think about that culture, and I think about what from that culture can I bring to my own home to better my child, or to better my relationship with my wife, and traditions that we could codify that make more sense. And so it's freaking way deeper than even just an experience for me. Like it's
Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls. I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like them. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.
Well, the other thing that I notice is when I come over to your house as a hunter, in your garage there's sets of antlers. I get excited about them. Where did this deer come from? Tell me about this deer. It's not it's sharing an experience. It's remembering that animal, that hunt, that struggle. The ones that didn't have a struggle or a story or a meaning, oh, that one, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's every single one in there. You go, okay, this was this was this. Every animal has a story.
Yeah.
Now, you can go, oh, antlers are on the wall. Yeah, well, the story is all the meat's gone. We ate that animal. You don't have to tell me about that. I know that.
Yes.
As a hunter.
Yes.
But we spend 45 minutes every time I come to your house. I'm looking through, going, oh yeah, what was this one? Where was that one from?
Yeah.
Where'd you get this? Tell me about this. That's a cool bull. Look at this bull elk. Wow, that's a really neat bull. It's not a giant bull, but it's a nice 6-point bull. Yeah, that was my first bull in Colorado.
Oh, and we were just talking about
it's like,
how about that moose? I'm like, that's the moose I shot with Joe Rogan like 5 years ago. It's when I first met Joe. I didn't say like, hey man, that's my 38-inch.
right.
I said, that's the first moose I've ever killed. I killed it with Joe Rogan. It's the first time him and I ever got together. It's the start of our friendship. It was awesome.
And I'm like, is it a Canadian moose? Yeah, a Canadian moose. I've never hunted Canadian moose. That would be a dream of mine to go hunt Canada. Yeah, because of the venture, the place, the memories, the everything. The meat is a part of it. It's a big part of it for me. But yet you have these antlers, or some people do mounts or whatever. Yeah. I like having that memory so I don't forget. And, okay, essential. A photo is the same, yes, but you can't hold a photo in the same way that you can hold.
Well, right, you were looking at that bull I killed in Colorado a couple years ago, and you're like, oh man, look at this, look at this little piece of metal jammed into his base, or like, there's just the tangible feeling. That's why I always, and we've done this in our professional career, like you contrive this picture of you and the animal, right? Like you set the right lighting, and you sometimes move the animal's body over to a different area that looks more beautiful than where he actually died, which is almost taking away from that experiential piece a little bit, because you're now taking, like, he died in the place he died, like, and you right. Pull him over to, I've done that before. You shoot an animal in a brush pile and pull him over to the nicest peak and take this photo. That is epic. Now that represents the landscape in some way, but it also doesn't represent where the animal died and what that experience was like. So that's one thing that I've found going forward I'd like to change for me is I want a photo of me and the animal in the place that it died, where that experience happened. In the case of your wife, maybe where she cried, like maybe in that place, a photo that kind of represents that moment. You'll never capture that moment in its entirety, but at least you can represent where you were and what it felt like for, think about 30, 40 years from now, what that will be for you, what that tear-felt moment over a deer would be. And why would I not want that to be well represented in a photo? Why does it have to be cut the tongue off and wipe the blood off and do that? Like what's the value in that, other than a trading card?
Well, and here's where we may agree or we may disagree. I don't know.
I hope we disagree because then we can
talk about it.
talk about it. If we agree, it'll be boring.
Okay. Yeah, I actually didn't know where this podcast was going because our last one just went a completely different direction. I had to refer to the last one.
Damn it. I hope I can release that as like podcast number 100. I'll be like, surprise, Remi, you motherfucker! Ah! I found it.
And you talk like a...
You're now... Your wife will hear it back and be like, oh my God.
Why'd you say that?
Bastard.
Okay. I like... If I take... Here's the way I see it. If I take what we would call a grip and grin. Because I actually... Oh, you're getting a Corona burp over there in silence.
See,
I'm going to call you out on it, too.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
We're drinking beer here, and we're moving our little microphones to burp and make noises.
This is paleo beer.
You don't want to hear.
Okay. If you... Oh, yeah. Talking about the grip and grin. When I take what I consider really good grip and grins,
mm-hmm.
because I do it for clients.
I would agree.
And I do it for myself, and I set the animal in a way. When I look at a hunting photo, I don't give a shit who's in the background. I don't even see the person in the background. I'm looking at the animal. And for me, when I set a picture, I want it to be an acceptable representation to showcase that animal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way that I give respect to that animal. Because I know that I might be in the background, but it's not about who's in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, you could show me a picture of a mule deer and I couldn't tell you whose face is in it because I'm staring at the rack. Right?
Priorities. Yes.
Priorities.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
if the animal looks like in a disgusting manner or whatever that does not show it in the best light, I don't like that. Because I like the animal to be represented in a way that gives value to the animal.
Absolutely. Agreed 100%.
So if I'm sitting behind an elk and I set it up and the elk looks, you're like, oh my God, look at that elk. And I'm in the background. That's perfect. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
As a photographer and as a hunter and as a guide, that's what I wanted. That's what I was going for.
Yeah. And I would make it clear that on my side of things, and I feel like this is going to be some kind of underlying theme of this podcast. But
have you talked about this before?
Oh, yeah.
We've talked. I don't listen to podcasts. So.
I've talked about it,
Ben.
but I like the different, like, there's a lot of these subjects that come up, probably because I kind of lean towards them. But they come up, and then there's always different angles on the subject, even if you talk about it 6 times. But in this case, I'd like to say I don't have a problem with the idea of what you're talking about, the grip and grin. I do it all the time. But what I've come to understand about, in my own mind about it, is that where it shows up is the importance. Because when you and I trade back grip and grins, we know what that means. Like, you and I know. Like, in the first rule of journalism is know your audience. So, if I take a grip and grin and I just send it to you and I'm like, dude, check this shit out. And you're like, that's awesome, dude. What a deer. And that's our conversation. Great. There's nothing in that can be, there's no preconceived notions or no lack of knowledge around that deer. If I put that online for how many, hundreds or thousands of people.
Is this still recording?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
we're gonna do that every 20 minutes. If I take that grip and grin and then put it online, I don't know who might see it. I don't know who my audience is. I think I might know, but I don't. I don't know. And so my idea is to take the grip and grin if you feel strongly about that personally. If it's a personal thing that you really feel like you have to do. But just be cognizant of where it goes. Like, just if it goes out to social media, be cognizant. I mean, there was, to be quite honest, there's a guy out there who posted this really heartfelt written piece about hunting mountain lions a couple weeks ago. A real famous fella in the hunting industry, and the image did not go with the text. The image, to somebody who's never hunted before, was like this mountain lion over his shoulders, and it's just him running through the snow, and it's all dramatic and seemingly contrived. And you're just thinking, if you would have just got that, if you would have just got that different, the words would have matched the image, because the words don't match the image for people that don't know. But for me as a hunter, I know what that image means. I know what you're trying to depict there. So I'm cool with it. But the idea of someone else missing out on that awesome experience because they preconceive the notion that that thing might be negative, it tells me that there's something we can change in that, and there's something we maybe should change.
That's a lot. That goes into a lot of the things that we're talking about in our last podcast. Okay. Now, here's where I will agree and I will respectfully disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know which mountain lion photo and thing you're talking about. And I actually thought that was really well done. That was my opinion.
You thought the mountain lion was well done?
Yeah, I liked the photo.
Okay.
That my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I thought the photo was very tasteful. And it was also a friend of ours that took the photo, and I thought he did a really good job.
Yes.
If we're thinking about the same one.
I hope we are.
Okay.
It was very recent. It was in British Columbia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay, we are.
I thought the image captivated me, personally.
Agreed.
And I thought it captivated me enough because here's the thing. I had another friend, and he wouldn't care if I talked about it, but I had another friend post a picture of him with a mountain lion. He's a Canadian, and that picture got blown out of proportion, disseminated to Europe, okay? Grabbed a hold of by European mainstream media in the UK.
That's terrible.
He then got on blast, hate mail, death threats, the British Prime Minister calling his penis small. Or not even, no, the Canadian Prime Minister. The lady Canadian Prime Minister saying that he had a small penis. I mean, he became infamous in Canada. One of 1,000 people holding a mountain lion. He ate the mountain lion. I know him. You know? I know what he stands for. I do not think he's a disrespectful hunter. They made a television episode, which I saw after before they aired. I don't even know if it's gone to air or whatever. I saw this. And everything in that episode, if you saw the whole story, you would understand the story. But the picture and the caption and the understanding didn't mesh.
Yeah.
And because mountain lions are a sensitive subject, people do not know about them, they don't understand them, and people that don't are the most vocal. He got blown way out of proportion.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a bad deal for him and hunting in general. For him, other Canadians, people who hunt mountain lions.
Absolutely.
Which there's nothing wrong with. Now, especially, there's really nothing wrong with in our current management system. Now, let me talk. Now I'm going to take a little rabbit trail just for 10 seconds.
Let's go. We got hours.
We've got hours. Listen to this rabbit trail. By you existing, okay, let's pretend there's a person that doesn't hunt that's listening. It's not going to happen. But there's a person listening that doesn't hunt. By that person existing means that we need to hunt the mountain lion. What? Why is that? Well, let me explain. Let's take my home state of Nevada, for instance. Native species in Nevada would be a mule deer. Okay? A mule deer is a browser. The browser requires certain habitat to exist. Through thousands of years of evolution, that mule deer has grown to fill a niche in an ecosystem over a very long period of time. Now, Native Americans, even further back than that, hunted these animals. They were a apex predator in this ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
where this animal lived. Over time, this animal's habitat has changed, it's adapted, but it is still primarily a browser. It lives in the mountains. It finds refuge and safety in the habitat that it's evolved to live in.
Mm-hmm.
During the wintertime, it migrates into other areas, but it's a high desert area. It needs tall sage. It needs mahoganies. It needs buckbrush. And it needs some form of high-protein grasses. Now, by you existing, what does that mean? That means that you as a human have negatively impacted those deer, whether you know it or not. How? First off, there are many animals in that landscape that should not exist there. Maybe you're the person that doesn't hunt, and you're the person championing, third time's the charm, for a wild horse or feral horse, which is a larger, more aggressive species that has no natural predators.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, in a high desert, competes and outcompetes for the same water source. Okay? So, it outcompetes for the same water source. So now the mule deer, which, now you go, well, the horse has no predators. So the horse can go into the flats, into where there's no cover, and live on water once it's destroyed the water sources in the mountain mule deer habitat, which the horse would prefer. Once those are gone, it can now move into the flats. The mule deer cannot. And there's a reason. Because they are a lot easier to kill in certain places by predator the mountain lion. So, the mule deer is now competing against a horse, which was introduced by man. Also, a guy's driving down the highway, and he throws a cigarette out the window and starts a forest fire. Okay? That forest fire rages through an area, which fires naturally create new growth.
Mm-hmm.
But there's thousands of invasive plant species that now take over this new growth. One of them in this particular area that I'm talking about, this isn't a hypothetical, this is real life, cheatgrass. Cheatgrass outcompetes native grasses for the soil content, grows faster, has nothing that a mule deer can eat. But now, these invasive animals and other things can eat it.
Mm-hmm.
We, just sitting back in our homes, don't realize the devastation as humans we've placed on the environment. Now, you're sitting in your house in a valley outside of a city in a suburb, which was prime winter range for mule deer. So now they are at a loss because their water sources are damaged. Their areas are burned and replaced with non-native species of grass that they
No
do
nutrition.
not need
Yeah.
or cannot live in, non-suitable habitat. And we also have things like a fire starts from lightning, and then we go suppress the fire so it can't get new growth. But that new growth either way would be infested with non-native species of grass.
Mm.
So now we have a deer population that needs managed because the environment cannot balance itself. And you also have to remember that human hunters have always been a part of the equation.
Oh, yeah.
So now we have this number, because of human interference, needs to be managed. Now we have a population of mountain lions that feed on the deer that need to be managed. The deer need to be managed for a reason. The mountain lions now need to be managed to in turn manage the herd of deer that we need to manage because of our shittiness. Long story is we now need to manage mountain lions. So that's the justification for it. Now, I felt that photo was captivating enough for me to read a thoughtful caption, which I thought made a good point about the hunting and what goes into mountain lions.
Mm-hmm.
So someone that had no clue reads it and goes,
Yeah.
And that's all you need.
Yes.
So that's why I disagree with you on that one. However, in our last Invisible podcast, I had said that I think there is a disconnect between hunters and what you're putting out to the general public and what is good for hunting and what is good for the individual. I had said that, me personally, I hunt bears. Oh, you hunt bears. Now, I don't necessarily like bear meat like I like elk meat. I stopped hunting bears for a very long time. For no other reason than I was just over it. Then, I hadn't hunted bears for a while, so I thought, I'll go hunt bears again. And it was exciting and fun. And I still eat bears. I generally make sausage out of them. Some people love bear meat. Not me. It's okay. It's not bad. I don't dislike it. There's just other things.
I appreciate you saying that because I feel like there's a lot of overcompensation when it comes to bear meat because people attack bear hunters so much. Like, why eat the meat? I love the meat. Do you?
Yeah.
Do you really love the meat?
It's different. But I also...
It's not terrible.
I'm not going to lie. I have some kind of emotional connection to certain large predators.
Mm-hmm.
The same emotional connection that many non-hunters have. And that's not a lie. That's just me personally.
Yep.
I see nothing wrong with wolf hunting. I've guided many hunters to wolves. I've never shot one. Now, I've tried in the early years. I thought, okay, because I had so many experiences with wolves around me before it was legal to hunt them. Many experiences. Probably more. I think I had 60 wolf encounters in one year. I don't know.
Holy crap.
Before the seasons were open. I mean, documented. Just, I practiced calling to them. I could call them in. I knew these animals in a way that very few people would. I did it because I thought these animals need managed, and when they open a season, I want to be the one person that can effectively hunt these animals. When they finally opened a season, I thought I didn't really care anymore. because I had some kind of emotional connection. I grew up with a pet wolf. Like, I really liked the animal. So I had some kind of emotional connection. But that does not say that I wouldn't shoot one because they need to be managed.
Yes.
That also doesn't say that we should let emotion manage wildlife. I believe if I'm going to stick to the theory of sound wildlife management through certain principles, then I'm going to stick to it no matter what.
Yeah. Well, the question we had a good conversation with Shane Mahoney on podcast number 5, and it was very much about like the answer the question, what is best for wildlife? What is best for the wildlife in Montana where you guide, in Nevada where you live? And you very clearly are always thinking what's best for the wildlife. Not what's best for me, Remi the hunter who wants to go and shoot a wolf and hang it on my wall, but what's best for the elk, the wolf, me as a human, my own consumptive habits. What's best for all those things? Like, what is best? Not what's best for the one wolf. What's best for everything in its totality? Like, that's the idea.
Exactly. A lot of these areas, wolves and elk have been so far removed from each other that it negatively affected the environment.
Yeah.
Now, it affected the behaviors. It affected the reproduction. There's plenty of studies out there that say, oh, this and that. And now, in my particular area, wolves were not killing as many animals, they found out, as many elk as mountain lions.
Hmm.
Yet everybody blames the wolves. Well, there's a lot of factors. I'm gonna just preface it with this. I'm not a biologist, but I spend a lot of time observing animals in their natural environment. I see things many biologists who have to go into a desk and make reports don't see. Now, there are a lot of biologists that biologists do an amazing job. I've met with a lot of them. But biology is a lot about observation. And I get the privilege to observe a lot. I pay attention to a lot of things because if I don't notice the small things, I will not become the most efficient predator that I can be.
Yep.
So I notice a lot of things. Where I'm going with this, no clue. What was I even talking about? No, I always just wanted to do a humble brag.
Well, I am not a biologist. I just remember you saying that you're not a biologist. That's all.
No, we started out and we went down a rabbit hole that was going to be 10 seconds.
And now we're talking about wolves. That's how this stuff works,
This is bullshit, really. Well, that is weird.
The emotionality of wolves.
What? I don't even know. Oh, I was talking about people that don't hunt.
Bastards.
And then maybe we were talking about antlers and either way. I don't know.
I'd like to see where this is going to go.
I'll listen back and be like, damn, that's where
I had a great point.
That's where that was 9 Coronas ago. Dang it.
Dang it. Well, listen, yeah, we're well into the evening. It's late in the nighttime. Things like this
you need
are
to get put to bed.
No, hell no. We're gonna shift. We'll just shift to something fucking else that we want to talk about.
Social media posting of bears. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So that was such a long. Oh my god.
Social media grip and grins.
Yeah. Listen. So last year, hunting to me, this is the key. I said all that to say this. To me, hunting is extremely important. To see hunting go on is extremely important. It, to me, and this is my personal opinion, and I'm not singling anyone out. This is my personal opinion. Hunting, to me, is more important than anything else I do. I understand that I have made a living hunting. I've also made that living in some ways being in the limelight of showcasing hunting to other people. Okay? Now, in my mind, I only do that for the benefit of hunting, for hunters, but I'm also very cognizant of those that are in the middle. Because in America, and many hunters do not understand this, but this is the absolute truth of it. Hunting is not a right.
Nope.
Hunting is a privilege. Hunting is a privilege granted to us by many people in the middle that are neither hunters nor non-hunters. There's probably a lot of people. Now, the Second Amendment, that's a right.
Yep.
If you're into AR-15s, you can scream rights all you want. Right? Because it's written into our Constitution. Hunting, there is no constitutional amendment for hunting.
No, hunting, especially in the modern sense, is an idea that was codified in the 1930s, really, and that has evolved into this thing we know today through so many twists and turns. You wouldn't believe it if you told you the true story of hunting.
Yes,
it's
a conservation and management tool that is a privilege granted to us by what I'm going to call the decision makers. Now, the decision makers are the people in the middle, the people to your house, to the left and to the right. Okay? So, we have decision makers. They're the ones that make the decisions. These decision makers, when they see something, Because now, if you wanted to be influenced by hunting, you had to go into a sporting goods store. You could see the pictures on the wall. You had to make a conscious effort. With social media being so public, anybody can see what I would call the brag board of the local Sportsman's Warehouse.
Mm-hmm. I forgot about that. That is a thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when I was a kid, I loved going into my local, it's called Mark Foreign Strike. If you're ever in Reno, Nevada, do yourself a favor and go into a sporting goods store called Mark Foreign Strike. There's a big elk sign. It's on Kidski Way. I loved going to that place. No, because the mom and pop, badass sporting goods store that people actually know what the hell they're talking about are disappearing.
Do you remember? I'm sure. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was out west. I mean, we're the same age basically. When I was a kid, you would shoot a deer. And once you were done skinning it and it was in the truck, or once you were done gutting it and it was in the truck, the next most exciting thing to do was to drive up to the check-in station, park your truck, go in, check your deer in, get a cold cut sandwich, and then stand by that truck and eat that sandwich and happily wait for everyone to run up and ask about the deer. Like that was
the moment.
That was social media. But it was social media where we knew the audience.
Hunters and hunters.
Yeah, it wasn't like somebody from San Francisco going, "What the hell's in the back of your truck?"
Right. I would walk to the back of Mark Foreign Strike. In the back, you had to walk past 35 mounts that I stared at and dreamed about hunting those animals or finding something like that constantly. You had to go to the back. You had to take a pin. You had to get a pin from the line counter, which was next to a giant mounted polar bear in a case from the 1930s. You had to pin that on the board, and you could write something, whatever. And first place I would go back to that board, and I would look at what people had got.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I got something, I was fortunate enough to be successful, I would put my picture up there. And other hunters could see what I got. But it was just hunters.
Mm-hmm.
It was it. There was it was open to the public, sure, but it was very specific audience.
No
you
tourist.
Had to know what you were looking for.
No tourist was going to be like I was going to SeaWorld and I got lost.
You walked past the polar bear mountain to go to the brag board.
I was trying to get
didn't have any problems.
I was trying to get to the casino at the pepper mill and I got lost.
So, what I'm saying is, we are all ambassadors for the sport of hunting when it becomes public to the decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you do something that can potentially hurt hunting in general, I am very much against that.
Oh yeah.
For me, there's certain things that just are for me. I shot a great bear last year in Montana. It was a big bear. It was a mature boar, above average size. I know for a fact, if I posted that picture, it would have increased my awareness or popularity in the hunting community because hunters would have seen it. They would have liked it. Also, I know that non-hunters would have hated it and they would have jumped in against me. And then hunters would have joined the bandwagon and defended me tooth and nail.
Yeah.
And what would the overall outcome be of that? My personal following would grow because of some crazy algorithms and social media, yet hunting in general would suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So I chose to protect hunting.
Yeah.
Because just because it's legal, just because it's ethical, just because hunters understand the meaning behind it, does not mean that it needs to be shared with 100% of everyone.
Amen.
Because when you throw a big net out there to the decision makers, certain things will stick and certain things won't.
Well, we know that carnivores specifically, there's an issue. We understand. Like, you could go inside right now in my house, and you could find that my son has. I counted one time. I almost put it all. I was almost going to do an Insta story just of all the bear-related paraphernalia that my son, paraphernalia is probably not a good word.
Paraphernalia.
Paraphernalia that my son has in his room throughout our home. He has bear pajamas. He has a bear doll. He has a bear wind-up toy that flops around the fucking room. He has bears to him at this point in his life and going into his formative years will be cartoon animals that he sleeps with at night, that he... I'm going to let you have that burp without... I won't call you out.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Those bears are personified in his life before he has a chance to be understanding of what a bear is, right? Is that the general reason why everybody has this feeling about bears of love and kind of personification? I don't know if that's all the story. That certainly is part of the story. The other part of the story is over the last 8-10 decades, there's been a similar idea about carnivores, bears in particular. Like they somehow have elevated themselves in the random order of how we see animals. Like I'm for sure know it's okay to show a film shooting 40 ducks and not showing the breasting or eating of one of those ducks. There will be very little complaining by the general public.
For sure.
Nobody's gonna be like, "Oh my God, you shot that duck and you didn't eat it." But if you shoot a bear and you just drag it off to the ATV and drive away into the distance, and that's the end of the film, people will rip you a new one. And so, what makes that duck more important than that bear?
Nothing.
What makes it more important than that bear? My son may have a couple of duck types of toys, but he does not have a whole suite of duck-related paraphernalia inside of there. But he does have he does have bear pajamas, and he does have a bear doll that he hugs when he goes to sleep. Like he has that, and I didn't pick any of that out. That's just kind of what he would grab off the shelf, or what my wife would pick out, or how it got there. But there's an element just of indoctrination in how we treat bears. I don't know why that is. I'm not smart enough to know that.
No, here's the thing. Amongst hunters, I could text Ben O'Brien a picture of the bear that I shot in Montana, and it does not negatively affect hunting.
No.
Right? So I can do that. Now, there might be people out there, "Oh, you're just a pussy. You don't stand up for hunting."
Well, somebody compared, when I said grip and grins, right? We were talking on the Gritty Bowman podcast about at the time, I will admit, I was halfway through ATA. I was sick. It was trade show season, and I was a little bit fed up with a few things. And I said, I just don't think anybody should do grip and grins. That's not the right thing to say. The right thing to say is, in some instances, grip and grins should not be massively shared, as you're saying. But in that instance, you just understand that the audience is the audience.
Right. I'm saying, okay, if you come, you've posted bear pictures in the past. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I know I have. Because do I see anything wrong with a hunter behind a bear? No, I do not. But I'm a hunter. I understand. Do I see, and obviously these things evolve, right? So do I see something wrong now? I do now. Why do I now? Because for me, I see something that hurts hunting. Now, and this is the caveat. If I especially know, intent is huge.
Oh yeah.
You can't get charged with murder without intent. No. Intent. If I know that this is going to be good for me personally, but bad for hunting, I will absolutely not do it ever. Mm-hmm. Ever. If I think that it will harm hunting in general, as a whole, I will not do it. Mm. That to me is not being a pussy.
Yeah.
When you put something that you love over something that you do for yourself, because selfishness is what screws us all.
Yeah. Well, just think about it this way. I said all this. Do I have to have that photo? Do I have to have everybody see it? No, I don't have to have that. I've come to just, over the years, does that benefit wildlife? Does that photo benefit wildlife? And if I feel like hunting is beneficial to wildlife and that photo doesn't benefit hunting, I can't, in all good conscience, share the damn thing, because It becomes about me and not about what's good for that wildlife. And there's a lot of people, and I said that a couple people would compare that to snowflakeism or this, the movements, the social justice movements that are happening right now. And I said that's not what it is, because it's not. There's two things that I think people are always trying to get to the extremes. I'm not trying to eliminate all my hunting photos for everyone, and I'm also not trying to just post everything I absolutely want to and not care about what anyone thinks. I'm not going to do either one of those two things, but I will take each instance of each photo and look at the landscape of which it's going to be presented and try to figure out the best way to present it. And if I feel like there's no good way to present it in a social media landscape, like you did with the bear, you say, oh, I don't need to do that. It would be selfish for me to put it up there, so I won't put it up there. I'll take it back. I'll show it to my friends. We'll celebrate it that way. The people that were with me and near me will know. And I'll put that rug in my house and I'll eat that bear, and then I won't have, my motivation will have been intrinsic, and I will feel fine about that. All that seems okay to me. That seems like a pretty rational way to look at it.
The bear that I shot last spring, the pictures I posted were of bear Polish sausages on the grill.
Delicious.
They were of bear meat, but no dead bear. And that, to me, told the story of what people who don't, the general public. Did I share that bear picture with friends that hunt? Yes, of course I did. Do I see anything wrong with bear hunting? No, I don't. But I have to be cognizant of the fact that if I put something out to the public, now I might have, in my particular instance, I've been fortunate enough to have been doing this a long time and have a lot of people that follow on social media.
Sure.
Or what I think is a lot of people. And I value every single person on there. And there's a lot of different opinions. But that platform, to me, is to benefit hunting.
Let me ask you this.
Not just pander to hunters. Because now you might go, okay, well, you only tell one part of the story. Or you don't, like, should I show an animal like that a client shot bad and I have to finish off with a knife? I don't need to put that out there to the public.
Yeah.
Because as a hunter, we understand that that is showing respect to the animal by giving it the most ethical death in a bad situation.
Yeah.
But somebody that just grabs that video, it's going to be really bad for hunting.
Well, that's what, like, hunting is, you know this better than anybody. Hunting has a lot of nuances and a lot of, like, little weird idiosyncrasies and a lot of complexities that you can't really put into a fucking social media post.
No.
Like, you can't. And I would say if you buy a license, you are not, at the time of buying a license, all of a sudden a PR agent for hunting. You're not. You are a hunter if you buy a hunting license and you endeavor to go hunting. So buy your hunting license and go do your thing. I'm all with you. But as soon as you take that hunting license and your active hunting and connect it with social media, if you put those two things together and you put them in a jar, shake it around and get your outcome, then you are a PR agent for hunting. At that point, if you said I like to buy my hunting license, I like to go sit in a tree, I like to shoot my deer, don't care who knows about it, you are more than welcome, as long as you're doing it legally and ethically, to do whatever you would like.
Right. Now, social media could be used for good.
But
it could
it
also
often
be
is
used for evil.
It's John Dudley once said something like the ring of power.
Yes.
The ring of power.
So
yeah,
you could use it for good or bad. But if you make something public, you are now an ambassador for hunting.
You are, whether you like
And
it or not.
If you like to hunt, you are an ambassador to the decision makers of a privilege.
Yeah. BC Bears, good example.
It got shut down. Many things got shut down because of the stupidity of people who said it's illegal. But I'm going to share it with the world and defend myself like it's a right. It's not a right.
Yeah.
It's a privilege.
Well, your friend in the mountain lion is a great example. And I just think that as much as you can talk around the issue, it's your friend had very little control as to the reaction to that image. Like, he had control of what it, he probably didn't take the image, so he had little control of even what the image looked like at the time. In the moment, it may have felt really good to him. Looking back on it, he may regret that image. So there is that element of it too. In the moment, it feels good, but when it feels okay, but when you have the opportunity to hit that submit button so it goes up online or goes on Instagram, you can then make it a secondary choice to say, like, it felt good at the time. It's a real photo. There's nothing wrong with it, but I feel like it might be misinterpreted, and I love hunting, and it enriches my life, and any misinterpretation of that enrichment would be disastrous. So I'm going to just hold this back because maybe it just doesn't say what I wanted to say.
Here's a funny example. Is if somebody were to say to me, "You're letting PETA win," okay?
Bastards.
Really? Who's letting PETA win? PETA's biggest growth spurt came after their Facebook shoot selfies, not animals.
They trolled the shit out of hunters on that one, didn't they?
Here's what happened. Every hunter that used that hurt hunting.
Mm-hmm.
They let PETA win by thinking that they were forming against them. Because what they did was they decided to post the most disgusting hunting photos that they could find. Right?
Yep.
And those hunting photos became public to the decision makers. And the decision makers saw those and said, if this is what hunters are, I'm not okay with it.
Well, break it down. That looks like somebody who is mocking another person who cares about an animal's rights. Like, I'm a hunter. I have all the rights. This thing's dead. I don't care about you. Like, that's what that is.
It's like, fuck you. I have the right to hunt, and you don't.
Yeah. And
you have the privilege to hunt.
And I tower over this animal. I killed it, and it has no rights.
Right.
Like,
so,
yeesh.
by that, PETA now gained ammunition, and you became the anti-hunter.
Yeah.
Anybody that negatively affects hunting is an anti-hunter, whether you hunt or not. So if you're a hunter and you have inadvertently harmed hunting, you're an anti-hunter.
Yeah.
You are the cause of hunting. Now, if you went on a legal hunt and let's say, I don't know, this is a hypothetical, but this happened actually.
Let's say a hypothetical if you spear a bear. Like,
hypothetically,
hypothetically,
you do something and you post it on social media, and the reaction is so negative that it gets banned. You still call yourself a hunter? I don't know.
You still proud of that?
No, but I'm saying, let's say I went on a bow hunt, right? And I legally had a mule deer tag. Okay? This is just a hypothetical. And I legally had a mule deer tag. And I I shot, everything wasn't right. The wind blew, the deer jumped, shit happened. Okay? And then the deer runs down the hill into a subdivision. And I continue filming, and everything I do is legal, but I end up laughing and slitting the deer's throat with a paper clip that I sharpened.
Am I there? I'm also there in the background laughing.
And it just looked horrible. And I go, ha ha, fuck you, PETA. This is what I did this weekend. Killing animals, right? And the video, to the person that doesn't hunt, looked horrific. Okay? No. This is a hypothetical. I'm just posing a question to people. The video looked horrific. And the general public lashed onto that video. Much like, and some of these instances are uncontrollable, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know the outcome of it. But if something is, you go, yeah, my auntie who doesn't hunt might not like this, right? The general public jumped onto that video, and now in every state across the West, bow hunting was banned.
Mm-hmm.
Is PETA the asshole? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or is the person who negatively affected hunting to the point where now no one in the Western United States can bow hunt?
Yeah.
Who ruined it?
Yeah.
Who is the anti-hunter there?
Well,
that's just a good question to pose.
Well, and there's a First Amendment aspect to that. Like, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. you can't there's a lot of things in hunting that I think when I examine them at their core are a little bit allowing us to shirk responsibility. And I feel like, the term hunting is conservation. That's a little bit like, shirk the responsibility of being a conservationist. If I'm hunting, I'm a conservationist. I don't have to do any actual conservation work. I just have to go hunting.
Right.
And I'm all good. I don't have to go help in translocation or go to a banquet and give any money. Nah, I just buy my hunting license. I'm a conservationist now. I feel like that's shirking a bit of the responsibility of the duality of hunting and conservation. Same way in this. There's a responsibility of the duality of buying a hunting license and having an outlet to share your experiences. There's a responsibility in both those aspects. You can't say, I'm responsible because I have a license. I'm responsible based on the ethics and the legality of the structure built around hunting. But I go online and I'm a cowboy. I can do whatever I want. You can post whatever you want on Instagram. They may blur it out and call it sensitive, or they may kick you off if you take it too far. But in general, compared to the actual act of hunting, social media has no rails. And it relies on your own sensibilities. And at some level, I always try to compare my hunting pursuits to my social media pursuits. Like, even though there isn't the same ethics, I find a way to connect them. I try to transfer my ethics in the field to what shows up on the screen. And if you can do that, then you'll almost never lose, because it's the parallel experience is going to show through. You don't need to. If that video, if you were being an asshole out in the field and you shot a deer in the hindquarters 4 times and you walked up and slit its throat with a paper clip in somebody's backyard, then your ethics in the field probably weren't worth showing on social media.
Because there's what's legal, what's ethical, and now there's a new category, what's socially acceptable in the public eye. And okay, but I feel like this is important to say is, you could probably go through my social media or whatever and find things you go, nah, that's questionable. This guy, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm saying that as a community of hunters, we should self-police ourselves in a way that is not putting someone down. So I would say, if you, Ben, saw something that I did and you just said, hey, man, I love what you do, but I'm not so sure that this helps hunting. Because there needs to be, the line is super gray.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know. Like you just said, I thought this mountain lion picture is bad. And I said, I thought that mountain lion picture is good. Okay. Maybe we'll put that in the gray area.
Yeah.
But now there's some stuff that you go, yeah, I think the general public isn't going to like that.
Well, there's a great example at Western Hunting Expo this year. And I won't bring anybody specifically into it, but there was a piece of content that was shown to a group of people. And in that group of people, there was another, by a very important person, an influencer, put themselves out there and showed this content. And another very important influencer in the crowd was not happy about what was shown. Basically, the ethics of the hunt or just the way the hunt was shown wasn't in the light that the person in the audience, who I feel has a great opinion and is very important, felt to be right. And that person came to me and said, hey, I want to talk to that content creator and just tell him how I feel. What do you think? And I said, you better go do that. And if it was me, if that happened to me, if I showed a piece of content and somebody came to me that I respected and said, I don't agree with that, I damn well hope I would sit down and take that to heart and watch it over again through their eyes and try to figure it out. And I think that's what you're talking about. We not only need to self-police, but we need to respectfully police each other and just exchange ideas in such a way that would just give some perspective that maybe you can't get from just your own bubble that you live in.
Yeah, because I did something this year and I thought, okay, I mean, I spend too much time. I don't post a lot on social media. If people follow me, they probably go, no, he posted 3 things this month. Because it takes me. Because I start to do something and I go, fuck, forget it. It's a pain in the like it just it stresses me out because I have to think about now in my position because I care so much about hunting in general, and I know that there are a lot of people that will see it that do not hunt. I particularly need to be more careful than someone else. Okay? So for me, it's very hard because I would prefer to just go pin it up on the board in my local sporting goods shop and just have that audience look at it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right? But also, I've been given an opportunity to help influence decision makers, the ones that grant us the privilege to influence them on our side so that my kids can have a hunting tag and go out hunt mule deer with their bows.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want to be the one that posted the video that bans all bow hunting in the western United States.
Son of a bitch.
This is a hypothetical.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a Netflix show about like a futuristic Netflix show. They like that these days.
All right. Well, I think we've covered this. We got this covered. People know how we feel. I want to, before this is over, we're pretty deep.
How deep are we?
We're like an hour and a half deep.
Okay.
That's not bad. We've done 3 hours each and many other podcasts before.
Yeah, but this is now a combined 3 hours because we did an hour and a half that got erased.
This may get erased too. You don't know. This may be 0.
If this gets erased, that's it. Yeah. No more Coronas.
No more podcasting with O'Brien. I want to tell some hunting stories, man. So we've hunted together a few times, probably not enough times, but a few. And I just want to tell some of those stories. And particularly, I think Lanai last year would be a good place to start. Mouflon hunting. Because that was an afternoon, right? I mean, it wasn't a whole...
It was not a full
It wasn't a 7-day pack-in
that was like a
trip.
For me, that was like a 2-day trip that felt like 6 months.
Didn't it?
It did.
And that trip, me and you took what essentially was about a 5 or 6 hour trip around to the western part of Lanai to an area where they held some mouflon and chased mouflon. I, just like you, felt like we were there for days, but we were only there for half a day, at most, and got to mouflon. I'll let you start just basically where we were and what it looked like, but the story just from the time we got out of the truck to the time we got back in and went back to town is a pretty good one. So.
Yeah, well, we went up the canyon, and I feel like we were told we were not going to get any.
Start there. I mean, you got to start there about what the place looked like and what they told us.
It's very steep. They're like, you can't walk up the hills, and you aren't going to kill any sheep.
It was basically
too hard to kill with a bow.
It was basically like it's very loud. There's a lot of lava rock. It's very steep.
Right.
The sheep live up high. You will not be able to kill something with a bow.
Right. So we're like, I don't really care. I just want to walk around. And we're walking around, and then I spot something. A glimpse in the trees. And all of a sudden, the glimpse explodes and starts running up the hill. And I make what I'm going to call the patented Remi Warren. And they stop. But there's a mess of koa tree in between us and the ram. I think to myself, this might be my one chance. So I draw back. I drop to a knee. I think I had some, where did you range it first?
57 yards.
Someone yelled out the yardage. I ranged it. Now, I do a lot of practicing that is very unconventional. When I practice, I thought about this the other day. I thought about like a little meme that says, "Oh, you shoot in your backyard and flat ground when it's sunny and hot out. That's cute." Because it's like, thanks for sharing that picture that has absolutely nothing to do with what you're going to experience in the field. At least where I hunt. It's always steep, raining, shitty. There's stuff in the way.
You're leaning around a tree.
Right. I generally shoot through, like, if I'm practicing in the backyard, I'm going to set stuff in front of the target and practice shooting through stuff and practice shooting around stuff and practice shooting in the cold and the hills and all that. When I'm sighting in, I want it flat and nice out. Now, repetition's one thing, but for me, it's all about hunting. I'm not a target shooter. I actually probably do worse in targets than I do while hunting. So, for me, I've practiced shooting through a lot of stuff. I know how to gauge where an arrow's flying. Yeah, a little humble brag. I'm good at trajectories with rifles, with bows. I've shot a lot.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. My practice is about mastering trajectory, not hitting it.
Be the arrow.
Be the arrow.
Be the freaking arrow.
You have to know. I know where that arrow is. When I look down a sight, I see the path of the arrow, not just the animal. I see a trajectory. The same with a rifle. Like you could shoot a gun. You could tell me about the weight and the grain, and I could see where that gun shoots. Then you can hand me that gun, and I can shoot that gun out to 600 yards, no problem. Because I know trajectories. That's just like I've done it. That's where my practice comes in. That's just over years. That's what I practice. I practice different than other people. I like to visualize those kind of things.
Yeah.
So when I'm shooting through stuff, I know whether my arrow is going to make it. And you can take it from. So I draw back.
Let me take it from.
I draw back, and Ben's like looking like, and then I said, range it.
From my perspective, you drew back, and I giggled a bit inside. I'm like, ha ha ha. What is he doing? I thought you were just like testing out, see what it looked like through. See what the sight picture might look like on a 57-yard impossible shot.
No, I got this.
So you said range him. I said 57 yards. You said I got this. And I'm like, what? And then thwack. And in my mind, your arrow would have had to do some sort of serpentine pattern to even get near the sheep, because those koa trees, it wasn't just one or two koa trees. I mean, there were little shits of trees. Like, there was probably 20 of them between me and you and the sheep. And I thought, in my mind, I'm like, well, stop showing off, Remi. And you shot, and I'm looking through the binos, and you shoot, and I see the mule kick, and then it disappears in the trees. And I thought, oh, well, he clearly just shot in the guts or something. I mean, there's no way. Because from my angle, the vitals were completely covered with the koa.
So from my angle, I intentionally covered the vitals. Because your line of sight is not your trajectory.
Yeah.
Because the tree in front of us was 20 yards. So I intentionally put the branch, and I knew that all I could see, because it's to the right, all I had was the vitals from left to right.
Yeah. From
behind the tree. And then I put the branch on its vitals, but I went up, so you saw me, I drew back, I put it on it, and then I went down, and I could see the leg, and I knew exactly where my pin was, but my pin was on a limb.
Yeah.
But I knew that my arrow was going to be where my upper pin was, which was completely clear at the 20 yards.
Yeah.
And
you were shooting by like a, I don't know, 8-inch by 8-inch hole, maybe.
Yeah.
At 57 yards. And that kind of trajectory where the trajectory of that arrow at 57 yards. So anyway, I am watching this all go down and just thinking, this is an interesting, I think he might have hit that sheep. So we go up there, we walk up, and it's in this just like boulder field, lava rocks, where you got to kind of traverse this boulder field and get up on this flat where we saw this sheep go. And at the point where we get up to the first set of boulder fields, I think we all kind of knew this was a dead sheep. Like, you were like, I hit him. I was like, I heard it. And Sam Soholt, our photographer, like, I heard it too. And we're all, I mean, you're talking about a cantaloupe size set of vitals at 57 yards.
If not, they were tiny. I didn't realize how small those things were.
These moufliner. And this was a, 2 or 3 year old ram. So smaller still. And so we go up tracking after this thing. We get about halfway up to it. And you could see it at that point. We're like, oh, it's down. It had only gone maybe 75 yards. And lo and behold, maybe 20 yards in front of us jumps up an even bigger ram, a
Much bigger. My dream ram. I would have mounted that ram.
A dream ram. Now, at this point,
Not in the weird way.
you might have mounted it in either way. This ram jumps up and runs through the koa trees in the boulder field. I immediately draw my bow. I knock an arrow and draw my bow. It runs out to about, what, like 30, 40 yards maybe? I mean, it's probably 40 yards. And stops in the trees. And I'm thinking, same as you, the trajectory of the arrow, there's probably 4 or 5 trees between me and the ram. And I was like, I've got to aim to the right so I can hit this thing in the shoulder. Because if I aim much further to the left, I'm going to hit this tree. So I got to aim to the right. And all the while I'm trying to figure this out, you're over there going, I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to shoot it.
I had a clear shot.
I'm going to kill it.
Nothing in the way. I'm not joking. I was 10 yards in front of you too. I was 20. I could have damn near grabbed the
clear shot at 30 yards, and I'm going, wait, Remy, wait, Remy, wait. So
and I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah, okay, O'Brien. All right, fine. Saving this sheep's life. And I'm thinking, much like after I saw your shot, I'm like, I got a 40 couple yard shot here, and all I got to do is not hit this tree.
Well, you're like, how far is it? I was like, I don't know, close enough. Do you really need me to range this?
Close.
It's pretty close.
Kill it. Kill it.
I don't know, put any pin on it.
Kill it now. So I'm like, okay, I put the pin on it. I slowly pull back, let that air release, and it whacks a tree. Most definitely not in the center of the tree, but not in the center of the animal either. That thing goes running off. I put another arrow on. I'm trying to find it again. It stops at like 80 yards. Remy's over there trying to find it, and it just scampers off into the nothingness.
Into the abyss.
That could have been your dream ram. I stole from you.
You stole from me.
I shot a tree.
He's like, I was like, I don't have a shot. And I was like, I got this. He's like, no.
No, you greedy bastard.
Okay.
No.
That's all right. It was fun. It was fun. The fact that I would have been just as excited if you would have shot it.
Oh, absolutely. But in the moment, we're hunters.
In the moment, it felt like it would have been.
In the moment, you would have. We both know you would have killed that thing.
I wish that I could have flashed you into my vision of what I saw, and I was at. We should also mention, while we are talking about this, I'm at full draw. 20-yard pin. I mean, this thing is very close to me because I was quite a bit further in front of you.
So you were at the ram
I
jumped the ram.
And he jumped up and ran pretty much right to me.
Well, so you walk past the ram. You and Sam walked past the ram, and I was staying back, taking pictures a little bit of you guys walking up to it. And then I took a little bit of a different route to get to where you guys were and jump this thing. And so, I think the characterization is it ran past you
and stopped
up
like maybe 20 yards.
And so
but
now
close enough I didn't have to.
We're probably 5 yards or 6 or we're a good ways away from each other, but enough that we can talk to each other and be like, hey, I'm about to shoot it. No, don't shoot it. And so, and this is to me in my mind, right? Like I have a pretty clear knowledge of your ability, right? And then I see you make this shot that in my mind is seemingly impossible. And now I'm in a situation where all I have to do is dodge a couple of trees. It's, yours is a 10 out of 10. Mine's a 6 out of 10. Difficulty 7 out of 10, maybe, if I'm giving myself some credit. And I just whacked that tree like it was my job. I mean, just
I was like, no.
And it was a nice ram too. But anyway, we get up to your ram, take care of that pretty quickly. Take some pictures, skin him up. Get him down to the trail. Our guide comes in the truck, picks us up. Now we're driving out. And I've hunted enough with a bow to know that, like, if you don't wound the animal and you miss it, with somebody with my skill level, I know. Like, if I don't wound the animal and it's a miss, it's just as positive as if that I got a shot as if I killed it. Like, in my mind, that's just how I treat it. We're driving out, and I'm thinking, man, I wish I would have got a move on. And we know we're probably not coming back to that area. They were talking about just one day out there, and we roll in the truck. We're rolling down, and we see some sheep. We pop some sheep. They run up over the hill into these lava rocks, like 300-400 yards away. And then the rifle is in the truck, right next to me, next to my bow. I'm like, I'm not getting out of here without one of these. we're going to eat this tomorrow on a Hawaiian beach, which we did.
Delicious.
Delicious. The best meat ever, which is what is kind of why we wanted to get some mouflon. So I get out of the truck, roll over, rest, boom, shoot this thing, and it falls over dead. And I wanted us to talk about this hunting story mostly just because the truth of the matter is, I was just kind of in kill mode at that point. Like, I wanted to kill a mouflon, and the one I killed was an old ram, nice ram, whatever. It was a pretty long shot with a rifle, but nothing, nothing all that amazing. But I didn't, at the time we were there, I knew that I wanted to kill this animal. I knew that I wanted the meat. And I knew I wanted the experience of killing it and seeing it and having that. And I wonder what your examination of that is. Like, your hunt was pretty pure in the way that we came across the animal, you shot it. You didn't get to, like, stand there like, muzzleloader, rifle, bow, I'm in a truck, I'm not in a truck. Like, we didn't have any prior prejudice against mouflon. We just knew we wanted to hunt and succeed. And by the time we got to mine, the whole tenor of the day had changed. Like, we already had one, I wanted to get one, and that's what happened. So I don't know that, like, do I feel bad about this? I don't know if I do or not. But I definitely know what my goals were going into it and what it ended up being. And that thing's hanging on my wall in there. I don't feel bad about it. But
here's my assessment. And we talked about this earlier. I had a client one time that maybe even put it better than I could put it, but here's the thing. I am a hunter. Ben O'Brien is a hunter. Yeah. Now, if I was in Austin, Texas, which I am, and someone tonight texted me and said, "Hey, you want to go quail hunting? It's 6 a.m. tomorrow." I would be there.
You'd be like, "That is illegal."
No, I mean within the legality of the law.
Yes.
If whether it's a shotgun, oh no, it's muzzleloader quail season. I would say, hand me over the muzzleloading shotgun. I will be there.
Great. So yeah, it's gonna be messy, but I'll be there.
Because at my purest form, I am a hunter. If the only thing that if you was legal was a rock, the legal weapon was throwing rocks, and you had to hunt squirrels, I would be there.
I would throw the rocks so hard.
Right. I love going out and hunting. So for me, if I'm in one moment bow hunting, which is one of my major passions in hunting, is bow hunting. But I look at all forms of hunting equal.
Yeah.
Because whether I love spot and stock backcountry bow hunting, if I'm going to put it in a category. But if you like to hunt on a private ranch and you generally drive around until you spot a deer and you shoot it with a rifle, I have nothing against you.
Yeah.
As long as you don't post that video that gets rifle hunting banned. We're good.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing that goes back to Ranella and his brother. I can't remember if it's Matt or Danny, but one of his brothers, I believe Matt, talks about the purity score, right? You look at each hunt, you look back at each hunt, and you look at all the elements, and then you look at its purity based on not only like just your ideals, because you can't look at the same hunt, every hunt the same way. Like that destination hunt in Lanai, who knows for you and I whether we'll ever go back there again. I mean, we are, but at the time you don't know. So you have to kind of treat those experiences like they're one-offs. Now, if you live there and you could go shoot mouflon every other day if you wanted to, you would treat that experience differently, hopefully. And so for me, like each hunt has a purity score, like what's my goal, what feels right. And then what I always say, like when you sit down with that dead animal and think about it, what's it feel like? What's it feel like?
For sure.
What does it feel like? And that will tell you your purity score. If it feels like the most amazing feeling in the world, much like you, if you go out solo hunting for 7 or 8 days in New Zealand and you shoot a tar with your bow, I bet the purity score feels pretty damn high for that.
Oh yeah.
And when you're sitting over that dead tar, you feel like you're on top of the world. Now, in the same way, if you roll in a truck and jump out and run up a hill and shoot a mouflon, sitting over it, you feel like you've achieved something, but the purity score doesn't feel quite as high. And all I would ever say to anybody is, like, you got to learn from each one of those feelings. And I learned from that feeling a little bit.
Well, this is me personally. I've never in my life, and whether you look at videos and other things that I've done or what, I've never, I like to share my experiences, but only because I feel fortunate to have so many of them.
Yeah.
I've never in my life hunted for someone else.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, you're a guide. Yeah, but I'm doing that because I love it to do it. I'm helping that person hunt, but it's something that I love to do. When I did a video for Under Armour, actually, it was one of their Ridge Reaper episodes. It's titled Alone. Now, I don't like the title of it because obviously I'm not alone. It was a weird title for it. They were trying to capture something. Sorry, Under Armour. I don't like the title.
All three people were alone.
Yeah. Because most of the time I'm hunting, I am alone. And they were trying to tell a story, and I
Right.
get that.
Right.
But part of the voiceover in there was very true to the way I hunt. Since I was a kid, I would go out and I would maybe hunt and pass up larger animals just because I love the experience of being out hunting so much that I wanted to extend it till the last day. But that's me. So then I started giving myself different challenges, making ways to make it harder, because the more difficult it was, the longer I got to hunt. And I still do that today. Because for me, the enjoyment is in the labor of it. I want to struggle. I want to go through the paces. I want to feel like I earned the animal. And in that, I gain more respect for it. I learn more. I become a better hunter. So that's just my way. There's other people that go out and they want to shoot the first deer they see on the first day. And that to them is their purity score.
Well, that purity score, that's why I would ask you, like, inside of that level. Because after, to fully, like we were talking about with that lanai hunt, I shot a nice buck at a long distance with a bow. A couple of days before I shot that mouflon with a rifle. So that you all measure this back to how you are as a hunter or whatever. And the purity score of that was like 10 out of 10. When I sat over the top of that deer,
just checking that it's recording.
That third red light there means we're good. That doesn't mean it's recording to any card or anything. It just
means the recording.
It's just recording. But when I sat over the axis deer I shot, which now is hanging in my house here, the purity was 10 out of 10. And when I sat over that mouflon, the purity was a little bit less. I don't know what the number was. But I think I would ask you the question of, like, so say you have a 10 days plan for a backcountry hunt. Because I've talked to you before where you're like, I'm 3 days in. I have to hike up to the phone booth here just to get some service and call people and text or whatever. And so obviously, like, you're going to be out there longer and you're looking for a certain deer. Well, you have a certain deer you're looking for and you run into that deer on day 2. And he happens to be laying in a place, taking a nap, where you can get to pretty easy with your bow. It's a 20-yard shot. He stands up, you smoke him, he goes, runs down, and dies. Do you feel like your purity score is lower just because of the happenstance of it? Or are you just looking up at the deer gods and thinking, thank you for that opportunity? Because that's knowing that it doesn't come all the time.
It just depends on the time and the day and when it feels right. But if it doesn't feel right to me, I pass up the opportunity. Yeah. And that's just me personally. But for me, more than anything, I enjoy being out there. I mean, a couple years ago, I had a mule deer tag in a great area. I legitimately passed up a giant buck on the first day. One that other guides in the area were clamoring over.
Yeah. Because
it wasn't the time yet. I wanted to get time to know the area and find deer and have my hunting experience. Now my hunting experience got tarnished and that ended up being the worst hunt of my life. But 18 days later, I was really pissed off and wanted to hurt myself and everyone else. No, that's a joke. But no, I was very frustrated by the end of it, and things went bad. But it was an experience. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And had I shot that deer on the first morning, the first 5 minutes, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to go home.
Yeah. And that's
hindsight. I was really ready.
I should have been home. Well, that's not like I look back at my upbringing. You may look back at it the same way, but every year I have done this for the last 3 years, probably since I've really known you. Every year I'll sit down at some point early in the year and think about the past year and the experiences I've had, and try to like formulate a bit of just like a series of bullet points on what's changed in me. Like what would I do now that I wouldn't do before? What have I decided not to do anymore that I'd done in the past? Like what are the changes in me as a hunter? Because I feel like it's important to always to mark those, and you can do that. I'm sure you know how it is. I mean, you can do that every year. And sometimes you decide, nah, bear hunting's not for me. And then 2 years later, you're like, yeah, bear hunting. Let's get back at that. Because it's cyclical. But I feel like that's important for every hunter. It's just, you have so many experiences. I mean, you want 300 days a year sometimes in the field?
Oh, yeah.
And on a good year or bad year, depending on.
Well, most was like 323. That's a lot of days.
Jesus.
That's in the field.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was a full-time.
Full-time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100. Well, obviously. That's
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Well, it's you have these, like, as you say, you become closer to animals. You understand them. You understand certain particular animals, and it has to change the way you feel about hunting. It has to. I mean, there's no way that 300 days in the field doesn't affect you in a freaking massive way.
Yeah, it does in some ways, but in other ways, it just affirms to me that I just love being out there.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
Yeah.
I'll do anything to just be out there.
Yeah.
And when that feeling dies, then I don't know. That's a sad day.
Yeah, when you're like, well, I'm just out here for the paycheck. Sad day.
It's a sad day.
It's a good place to end it, Remi Warren.
On a sad day? No, pass me another Corona.
We are almost out of Coronas. My wife cut more limes than we had Coronas.
That's all right.
Which is unfortunate. She's a lovely lady.
Well, Ben, if you don't lose this one, that's podcast gold.
Podcast gold.
I can't help you any more than that.
Is this the last time?
This is the last.
If this makes it to air, does that...
The first aired, second time, last time. I don't know how that works.
If this makes it to air, does that erase the prior transgression and inspire you to come on later, or is this it regardless?
Remains to be seen.
Until next time, Remi.
Until maybe next time. No, just kidding.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ben.
All right, bro.
All right.
That's it. Episode number 6 is in the books. I'll tell you what, one of my favorites. There might have been some rambling. There might have been some mistakes. We're going to leave that all in. Unedited conversation. Just two guys that love hunting. And I can't tell you how privileged I am to have known Remi for the time that I've known him, and to hopefully, go on this hunting journey with him for the next number of decades. As we're both around the same age, and I feel like we've got a lot of hunting story left to tell, and I can't wait to tell with Remi. And I would thank him again for joining me on the Hunting Collective for a second time, and will apologize for deleting the first podcast that we did a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, if you want to find any of the other 5 podcasts we've done previous to this one, you can go to thehuntingcollective.com. You can check out Steve Ranella, Ryan Callahan, Aubrey Marcus, Shane Mahoney, John Dudley, and of course this one. There's videos there. There's articles there. There's an article there that I enjoy called The Meat Eater Revolution that I penned some years ago, that is basically about how intellectual foodies and people that are angling hunting in a different way can help us see our pursuits through a different prism. hopefully you enjoy that. You'll enjoy everything at thehuntingcollective.com. All these episodes are downloadable. Is that a word? Downloadable? On Stitcher and iTunes. If you so happen to go to iTunes, please give me a review. Hopefully it's a good one. Please subscribe. Tell all your friends to do the same. And hopefully we will see you here next week for episode number 7. Bye.
Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like them. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.